So I've just hit record. So I'll just go over the main things I was about to say. So tonight's call is all about mindset and motivation, and just talking about sort of like your environment. We've touched on it briefly along the last few weeks, and like I said, the way I've sort of designed the eliminate calls are to sort of follow on into each other, like get yourself settled, make sure you've got structure, make sure you've got routine. Then after that comes all like your weekends, what can you do at weekends, how do you navigate around them, and following sort of like big weekends, and then coming into the sort of second half of eliminate, mindset and motivation starts to dip. So they all sort of interlink and follow in. And then we obviously talk about scale weight and fluctuations, which I have already mentioned in the group, but we talk about that and the fat loss science and fat loss science and math numbers going through, because after sort of weeks 4 and 5 and people have had a few weekends, we start to see a little bit more fluctuations as well. So it all interlinks, and then that sort of cycles back around, because once you start seeing like the scales fluctuate or not move as quick as they were, you start losing your mindset and your motivation again. So it is all about just doing what needs to be done. The same things you've done in week 1, you should still be doing in week 6, 7, and 8, which we'll cover on this call tonight. So what should we expect in week 5? This is where you do start to really start seeing them physical changes in sort of your clothes. You've probably seen the numbers on the scales come down, but we'll start with the positives, and you really start finding things like finding your feet, as I like to say. You're in your route, you've got your structure, you've got your routine now, you know what days you go to the gym, you know what workouts you're doing, you've got the hang of meal prep. So when it comes to week 5 and you're starting to put all that together, it should become that little bit easier. It should start to become a lot more consistent. Hitting your protein doesn't become a chore. It becomes, right, I know what I'm having here. I know how to hit protein. When you're going out for meals or you're putting meals together, you start thinking, right, protein first, then my veg, fruit, salads, then I add my carbs and my fats as applicable. And with all of that, obviously comes your progress. So like I said, the scale should have started probably quite quick if you were having a bit of water retention before. This is on the best part. Some people were a little bit stuck on the scales and now it's come down, but them scales probably will start to slow down. And I used this analogy last week, said you're originally taking a mug of water out of a bath, we're now sort of taking a jug of water out of a sink in terms of like body fat level. So you will start seeing more progress in your pictures and your waist measurements and your clothes rather than the scales as we did previously. So that's what we can expect in week 5, but we can also expect boredom to start kicking in, tiredness, hunger, desire, and motivation will start to dip. It's all good when we start like a fat loss program, like, right, I'm ready to go, I'm going to do my big food shop, I'm going to get all the healthy eating, I'm going to make sure I go out and get my steps. Week 1, it's raining, you go out and get your steps. Weeks 5, 6, you're like, it's a little bit cold, I'll save my steps for tomorrow. These sort of things start to creep in because you try and create old habits. Your body's trying to create its energy balance, as I like to say. So it's all about now using the things that you've been doing that got you to this point and not get complacent. And if you do that, you are going to see such physical changes within yourself. But most importantly, these habits that you're building on Eliminate, you can use them for life. And I sort of say this to people, before you joined Eliminate, you probably didn't really have a clue on how to put meals together. You'd heard of calorie targets, you'd heard of hitting protein targets, but you'd be surprised at how much you learn now. And once you've learned that information, you sort of can't unforget it. That's why I say to people, once you've lost the weight on Eliminate, they keep it off, because we're teaching you how to do it. We're teaching you how to do things. Once you know how to hit, for example, 1,500 calories with 130 grams of protein, or 2,000 calories and 150 grams of protein, you've learned that information for life, and you're never going to forget that. And you know, if you've had a big weekend or you've had a holiday or you're feeling like you've put on a couple of pounds, you're like, right, I want to sort my shit out. It's not, right, hell for leather, double cardio sessions, run yourself into the ground, not eat, do the next juice diet, do the next phase, you know, right, okay, I know I can eat enough. I know what I need to eat. I do all the things I learned on Eliminate because that's the right way to do things. So that's why it's important to do that. And this leads me quite nicely onto where are you most likely to go wrong? You're most likely to go wrong by thinking the methods on ELIMIN8 are just a phase. It's not. It's teaching you the fat loss science. It's teaching you what basically you see all over social media: calories in, these calories out. You've got a target. Them targets allow you to reflect on your feedback. So, for example, if you eat 1,500 calories and your weight comes down at that 0.5 to 1% per week, you know you're doing the right things. So if you're losing quicker than that 0.5 to 1% per week, but your energy levels are low, you know you need to eat more food on your energy levels. If you're eating that amount and your weight's not coming down and you're not seeing the physical changes, you know you need to eat less. So that is what it is. So use what ELIMIN8 teaches you and don't get complacent with it. But you're also likely to go wrong in thinking you know too much and thinking, oh, I know what I'm doing now. I don't need to track, or I'll just round that off as a certain sort of number. As long as if I put that and that together, that's about 500 calories. Because all these little 50 to 100 calories, not tracking a coffee or doing that sort of stuff, thinking, oh, I'll skip steps today, I'll make it up at the weekend. That's how your bad habits start creeping back in. So it is all about putting everything together that you know and just implementing it, being consistent with it. That's where this sort of mindset motivation comes into play, which we're about to talk about in a moment. But stick to what you know works and keep rinsing and repeating that until it does become a habit. Like you said, till you know off the back of your hand that if you were to put together a day of, and I keep using this number, 1,500 calories, if you were to put together a day of 1,500 calories, you could do that off the top of your head. You could go, right, if I have, I need a 300 calorie snack and I've got 30 grams of protein to hit. If I have 0% fat Greek yogurt with some whey protein and berries, I know that's basically protein and veg and fruit, sorry. So you can put all them things together. Sorry, I'm in my new place and it sounds like someone's just walked in the door. So this comes on to what I should focus on, and it is these little things of making sure you focus on what you already know. The main things by now, as you know, make sure your nutrition sorted. Do your best with your nutrition, because if your nutrition is in place and you're hitting your target, you can never go too far wrong. You can always make up steps, or you can always make up your workouts, etc., etc. And it's the old saying of you can't out train a bad diet. So that basically means if you're going eating whatever you want whenever you want, there's no amount of sort of exercise that you'll be able to keep out training at, because you will run yourself into the ground. You'll burn the candle at both ends and you'll crash. So that's why it's important to focus on keeping things simple, especially as we start going into sort of week 6, 7, and 8. I've put this sort of subject and topic in before week 6, 7, 8 so that you can plan ahead. So pre-planning and not doing things in hindsight is where you're going to make the most of this and not likely go wrong. Like when food does get a little bit tighter and you start thinking, all right, let me see what I've got left for dinner, I'll put my food in now, and you've got 200 calories left for your dinner, you're going to think, well, fuck this, I can't do this anymore. So I need to, I'll just not track today and things like that. So it's focusing on what you know works. But again, what we know works isn't just thinking I need to eat the same thing every single day. It's right, what day is my working out? What day is my training? What am I having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner this week? Where am I leaving myself that flexibility? For example, if you know you don't want to have the same dinner every night, how many calories you having for dinner? How many grams of protein do you need? What sort of options can you have? Don't just think, oh, I'll get to the shop and decide then. Yes, you will do that sometimes. Yes, you will get caught off guard. Like I was just saying to the guys who were on the call before the others joined in and before I hit record, I had one of them days today where it's bank holiday weekend. I worked. As soon as I finished work, I came down to a new place, and then I've gone straight out to St. Juan's for like a photo shoot for a sports shop. They asked me to give them a hand, and I've not had like lunch or dinner, my food's been all over the place today. But in the back of my head, I knew on my way home, I'll pick up some rice, some salad, and a tin of tuna, which is just something I can throw together for dinner. It's not the most perfect dinner in the world, but it just gets me back on track after quite a heavy weekend of eating and drinking. So it's focusing on all the little things that, work. I always say, have your structure, have your routine. That's why we've done the things that we did in week 1, because if you know what days you're training, what your meal structure looks like, e.g., is it breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack? Is it just breakfast, lunch, dinner? You will be there or thereabouts. Then you can slowly start adding in all the extra bits. So, and Palace have just scored. What a way to kill me off there, Sarah. Obviously, I'm a Man United fan, but that was no surprise. That was coming. United are still going to win. But this is why I'm telling you to start focusing on your nutrition first. Focus on, like I said the other week, protein, then your salad, then your veg, and then obviously add your carbs in. Why? Because it's going to get tougher. Sorry, Paco. Sarah must be paying for Sky. You must have a dodgy box. But like, why? It's getting tougher. Because calories get tighter, because that is the nature of ELIMIN8. It's aggressive fat loss. I want to keep you aggressive for 3 weeks. And then once the 3 weeks are over, you get more calories and you can enjoy more food, but you've lost more weight. I prefer aggressive dieting over slower and longer. I do it myself. Obviously, a lot of my one-to-one clients, I do coach slower and longer, but I do personally prefer more aggressive. But that does come with its downsides. It's tougher, it's tighter foods. You've got to do more output in a shorter period of time. So how do you get through it? How do you get through the tougher times? Again, it's going to come down to the same things. It's going to come down to pre-planning, and it's going to come down to sticking to 80-90% whole nutrient-dense foods. You've probably heard people say that, the 80-20 rule. We touched on it the other week, but it basically means getting most of your protein sources from the likes of chicken, cod, whitefish, tuna, prawns, turkey, 5% beef, Greek yogurt, egg whites, cottage cheese, eat lean cheese, then stocking up with lots of green veg, lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, all the stuff that berries, etc., etc. And you're probably thinking, and you're probably on this call thinking, heard this all before. Logan's been repeating this, but the reason for that is it's the stuff that works. And like I said, week 1, the challenges are like fakeaways. Last week's challenge was desserts, etc., because you've got more room and you've got more calories. The reason we don't do them challenges later on in ELIMIN8 is because it gets tighter. Your first sort of 2-3 weeks is getting you in, making sure you're motivated, making sure you're enjoying it, make sure you have some form of understanding of how to hit your protein calories and give you a bit more flexibility. As it gets tighter and tighter, it is sort of almost doing what needs to be done to get the job done, to get them last few kilos off. Yes, you can still have a bit of flexibility and make things work, etc. But it's more about, what do I need to do to get it done? And the more sensible you are with your choices, the easier it's going to be. So that does mean like try and focus a bit more on whole foods, nutrient-dense foods. But again, if you are out or you do go out for dinner, or you do end up having a bit of chocolate or a little bit of a cake at work, cool. Try your best to make it fit. Put it behind you, move on. It will be harder to make these things fit. So if you do creep over your calories, I'm not here to tell you off or say you failed. Your calorie target is a target. That's where I put that number for optimal progress, where I think it's that strike between enough progress to make without overdoing it. For what I mean by that is like I could put you all on 800 calories a day and your body fat would fly down, but so would your energy levels and you would crash. So that's why if you do start to creep over 50, 100 calories, don't think it's failed. Just think, right, it's a little bit slower than I want to be, but it's not end of the world. Can I get back on it the next day? So just be sensible on that, and also start optimizing good sleep, prioritizing yourself, getting your walks in, and really trying to channel into your energy levels and think, right, what can I do to make me optimal? When do I function best? what makes me work best, and you will see that, and that's where you will get through the second half of Eliminate. Obviously, we still got a week on the same targets as last week, and then it gets tougher, but it will get tougher and tougher. And start focusing on yourself. Don't go hell for leather at weekends. Don't think, oh, I've got a higher day, I can use that for alcohol and all things like that just because I can. Start thinking, do you need to? And you'll see, yes, I'm getting a little bit tougher, but it's for your benefit. And that is it. So you get some people start getting bored after they've been doing things for 3 or 4 weeks, e.g., bored of the same workouts, bored of hearing me talk about the same stuff. Should you change things up? No. From a workouts point of view, most people see optimal progress in 8 to 16 week training programs. Most of my one-to-one clients have 12-week training programs. Reason being, I use this analogy quite a lot. If you studied French for 4 weeks and then done Spanish for 4 weeks and then German for 4 weeks, or you done French for 12 weeks straight, which one are you going to be better at? Which method are you going to be more fluent in French? And it's obviously going to be learning the French for the 12 weeks straight. What happens if you were learning French for 20 weeks in a row and you didn't actually have a reason to learn French? You'd probably start switching off around the 8, 9, 10, 12 week mark. So it's the same with workout programs. You want to make sure you're progressing. That's why 8 weeks, Eliminate is 8 weeks as well, because 6 weeks, you're not really getting into things. Do it for 12 weeks, and then obviously you can start changing up your programs. But it will always have its staples in there. If you do gym programs, there'll always be some form of like squats, lunges, pushes, presses, pulls, etc., etc. You just do variations of them. So don't start changing things up just for the sake of it. Same with your like cardio and things like that. Do what's been working for you from like a towards your goals, towards your progress, but also from an energy level. Has anyone got any questions for me on sort of like what to focus on? Anything they think like nutrition just sounds a little bit boring now? Anything that they want to sort of ask me on? Anything on the call so far, or anything from Eliminate it at all? No. So questions I get asked quite a lot. Like obviously being a coach, an online coach, a personal trainer, having done things like photo shoots and things like that, is like, what would I do? Like what would I personally do? And that's why I put this in as a topic. It comes again, this is the sort of thing I was saying last week. It comes down to you. And I think it was to you, Pac, I was explaining it. It comes between that line of optimal progress and life balance. It's where you decide you want to put that pin. So, like I said, this is going out every single weekend, not tracking your food, eating and drinking whatever you want. And this is the complete opposite. This is tracking every last bit of food that goes in your mouth, never missing a workout, optimal calories. Like I've been both ends of the spectrum. It's very rare I'm down the end of health and leather social, just because I'm someone who likes to keep myself in good shape and self-proclaimed good shape. But like I'm someone who likes to live that healthier lifestyle. And I enjoy feeling better off, enjoy feeling active, enjoy feeling fresh. Rather than obviously feeling always like hungover, slumped on the sofa on a Sunday, not doing anything. So it's, if you're asking me, I probably sit maybe 70-30 most of the year, where like I'm always working out, I'm always doing my cardio, I'm always going for runs, keeping fit, meal prep my food. Not also that's mainly to save like a bit of money and just keep me sort of making when I'm busy, just to keep me busy. And I don't mind eating quite similar things day and day. But when it comes to this sort of time, and I sort of use this as, rather than the last 4 weeks, sort of my last 6 weeks of when I've done things like photo shoot preps and things like that, what I would do from here, and if this was like you guys, and I was on the last 4 weeks of Eliminate, I would be, again, keeping things as simple as possible. And what I mean by that is like, don't stress yourself out starting to try new recipes through the week for meal prep. don't start thinking, oh, I want to start training for a half marathon because I'm getting a little bit bored and I want to start thinking of what I want to do after Eliminate. Yes, if you want to start adding in a little bit of running because you've lost a little bit of weight and you're feeling healthier, cool, but keep it to a little bit of running. But most of my food, like e.g. my breakfast, lunch and dinners, would be from the sources mentioned above, like make sure my protein's good, make sure my nutrients are good. And you'll see I focus a lot on nutrition on these calls rather than the workouts. But I would also be making sure like my sleep was good, my alcohol was kept to a minimum. That doesn't mean don't drink, you see I say to a minimum, because I'm thinking about progress and recovery. And I'm thinking it's only 3-4 weeks. Like how good would it feel to lose an extra 3-4 kilos or break through that barrier that you never get through? Like you say, you always get down to 61 kilos and you just would love to get 59, but every time you get to 61 it goes back up to 63, 64. You're sort of doing things now that are going to push you to that next level. The sort of reason you joined up to Eliminate, you've all lost weight before, you've all got to a point, but what makes you now get past that point, bust through that plateau? And it is the mundane, boring stuff in terms of like how it's repeated to you and how I'm speaking about it. But that doesn't mean your meal choices have to be boring. That doesn't mean your choice of cardio has to be boring. That doesn't mean you're not enjoying your workouts. If you're enjoying the workouts, you're enjoying your cooking, you're enjoying being healthier, you're enjoying seeing the progress, that's not boring. It's just rinse and repeat what I'm saying is boring. So keep doing what makes you tick. Keep things simple. Take the thought process out because you're going to get tired. You're going to be hungry. You're going to have more stress over the next 4 weeks, more than likely, because you've been doing this for a longer period of time. So the last thing you want to do is get to put yourself in a position where you're more stressed and more tired and then have to make your decisions. That's why it's stick to what you know, keep things simple. So that's what I would do, because I would want optimal progress. So when I done my photo shoots, I tracked all my food, I tracked my weekends, I pre-planned, I didn't drink alcohol. I'm not quite doing that at the moment, just because I've got so much on. But what I am trying to do is make sure my Monday to Friday is nailed. My Monday to Friday is pretty much perfect, as good as what my photo shoots were. But what I'm doing at the minute is I'm still tracking my weekends. I'm just not as tight with my food choices. I'm having a little bit of flexibility. E.g., if Amira wants to go for breakfast because we've been working on the house all weekend, I'm going to go for breakfast. I'm going to try and make that fit. We've been out for dinner. I've had 1 or 2 cocktails. But again, done my best to make them fit. Live in the square at the weekend. I went on Saturday. Just took the day on track because there was no way I was going to make that work. But again, the difference between, so that's the difference between like now and photo shoots. The difference between now and sort of like the last couple of months is I was still sensible during the day. I focused on my lighter breakfast, focused on a lighter lunch, rather than just going out and doing what I wanted. So it's striking that balance somewhere in the middle. But if it was me and I was sort of unhappy with how I looked, or I was starting to see really good progress, I'd be trying to optimize as much progress as I could by keeping things simple. Any questions for me on what you should be focusing on? If you're struggling to strike that balance at weekends, still anyone getting to the weekends and just thinking they have one drink and that's the whole weekend screwed? Any questions for me on eating out, what meals to pick, anything like that?
I was just gonna say, like obviously on the last Eliminate that I was on the January, that I found that easier because there was nothing going on. Whereas this time of year, especially now that the sun's coming out, it's every that's finding the balance where now people always want to make plans and stuff, and it's going to be my 30th next week.
So with that, Caitlin, it is hard. Like it is hard. I'm not going to sit here and say, "I'll just say no for the next 3-4 weeks" and things like that. Because I am a normal human being. I like to have a social life as well. So I coach from 2 minds. I always coach from the coach aspect, give you the best information I can give you, and then I sort of water it down and say, this is what I would do if it was me. So if it was you and you're trying to get the social life in, Monday to Friday, nailed, get your food absolutely spot on. Try not to have as much as flexibility as you probably would do during the week. Just make sure all workouts are done. Don't save any for the weekend. Don't save any for for example, if you know you're going out Saturday, if you're 30th on Saturday, don't go out, don't save a gym session for Sunday because it's not getting done. So get that in. Make sure your cardio is done if you're doing cardio. Try and keep your food as good as you possibly can through the week. And then when it comes to the weekend, your 30th is a different conversation. But for the best parts, I'm going to talk to the group here. Have a plan for the weekend. So it comes into levels of how much you eat and how much you drink, etc., etc. But if it's just a few drinks and it's a few social, and you know, right, I'm going to have 4 Prosecco's, I'm going out, I'm just going to catch up with some friends and make sure it fits. You can put them 4 Prosecco's in and reverse that backwards. If you're out for dinner, you can pre-plan your dinner and work it backwards. If you're going out for dinner but you don't know what you're having, you can round yourself off a certain amount of calories. E.g., like I went for dinner last night, and I was like, right, I'm going to save myself 1,000 calories for dinner. Ended up getting like this beef ragu dish. It was probably about 800 to 1,000 calories. Do you know what I mean? I didn't go and get starter and desserts. I made that 800 calories work. So that it's all about having that plan based on what kind of level it is. Your 30th is one of them days where you're not going to make it fit into a calorie amount and a calorie target. I would never ask someone to do that for such a big occasion. I just want you to go and enjoy the day. But if we're talking across the week, 7 days of the week, if you nail Monday to Friday, Saturday you have the day untracked, you're going to be probably running around mental, getting balloons and sorting things out. Anyway, speaking of friends about what time it starts. So I would push breakfast back to 10, 11. I would try and eat a little bit lighter. I'd probably do something similar for lunch, focusing on protein and veg, etc. So e.g. like eggs, yogurts for breakfast, salads for lunch. And then go and have your evening fully tracked. I wouldn't track the day. But again, it gets to that point of if you say Kieran takes you out for a nice breakfast for your birthday and then your mum pops round and says, oh, do you want to go for lunch? I'd be the type of person that says, go and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Because whatever happens on that day, we can make up. One day out of 365 can be made up, in my opinion. And I always say to people, if you had 5 free hits of the year to go over your calories and do whatever you want, your birthday would be in that 5. So if you think, just go and enjoy it, whatever will be, will be. That's me talking as a normal human being over a coach. The coach in me would say the other stuff, but not on a 30th birthday, no chance. So just go and enjoy it, but be good up until beforehand. And that goes for most people when they've got events on. Read the event. If it's like just to catch up with a couple of mates and you can limit the drink or not drink, then obviously I'm going to say don't, especially in the last 4 weeks. If it's dinner, plan ahead as much as you can, whether it be dinner and drinks, whether that be putting the actual meal in or saving yourself a certain amount of calories. So, which brings me on to sort of motivation, mindset and motivation. So we've heard of all these fitness influencers, fitness sort of wankers, if I don't excuse my language there, say, you don't need motivation, you need discipline. But what does, or discipline equals motivation, but what does that actually mean? You know, rather than just sort of getting that tattooed on your forearm because you go to the gym. Motivation is not a feeling. It's not a permanent state. So motivation is a feeling. It's not a permanent state. E.g., no matter who you are, you're never going to be fully motivated every single day. You're going to have your up days. You're going to have your down days. Same as we do with like happiness and sadness. It comes and it goes. So what gives people the discipline? The discipline is as simple as it's hitting your targets. That is what sort of discipline means. It's like you do the things that you should do when you don't always feel like doing it. There'll be days where you're like, oh, don't want to go to the gym today, but you know you'll go and hit your numbers. Like I said to you last time, Caitlin, your body reacts. So, for example, if you've squatted 30 kg and you up that to 32.5, whether you could be asked lifting that 32.5 or not, it knows it's progressed. Your body has to react to that. If you can be bothered eating healthy or can't be bothered eating healthy, but you have a calorie deficit for the day, your body will lose weight. So that is basically what discipline means. It's like you continue to do what you need to do when you don't always feel like doing it. And it is as simple as, like, for example, we're all dieting at the minute. We're all trying to hit a calorie deficit. So our achievement for the day is a calorie deficit. Whether we can be bothered doing that or not, whether we feel really motivated to do that or not, our body will react the same. So if you go to the gym and you think, oh, really buzzing for the gym today, have the best workout ever, calorie deficit, ate healthy, etc., just feel really good today, and you do the exact same thing, but you're like, oh, that was a pain in the ass, didn't really enjoy that, couldn't get through it, your body will react the same. So that's why targets are targets, and that's why you got to hit the things that we do. So leads me quite nicely on to sort of your environment, and I'm going to break this down into two parts, and we've touched on it in previous weeks. Your food environment vs your sort of social environment. So this is starting with your food environment. Obviously we start with the sort of food choices. When you go to the shop, you pick your whole nutrient dense food, your clean food, you like sort of less processed stuff as much as you can. But on from that, it's also like you're not always going to feel like cooking fresh chicken breasts or whipping up a storm for your meal prep. So the things that you want to do is you want to make sure you're not getting caught off guard either. So we've talked about the My Protein meals, the gym kitchen meals, but also like not leaving. Everyone always says like make sure you've got no chocolate crisps, etc., in the cupboard, right? So making sure that your food's gone. But at the end of the day, you're grown adults. Like if you're craving a chocolate bar, you're going to go down to the shop at the bottom of the road and go grab a chocolate bar. You're going to go to the garage on your way home and just pop in and pick something up. So I think the opposite sometimes. I think your food environment should actually be a little bit like save some things that make your life easier. So I always keep a tub of Halo Top ice cream in the cupboard. It's 360 calories for the whole tub. And I keep some dark chocolate in the cupboard. They're my sort of go-tos for sweet cravings, because if I've got one tub of Halo Top in the fridge, in the freezer, I know I can have that anytime I want, right? So it sort of gives me a mindset of like, it doesn't give me an on-off approach of, right, next time you go get ice cream, you have to have it because you're never going to get it again. That's there for whenever I want it. So it becomes a choice of, do I need it? Do I not? And then you're teaching your mind the right thing. And I think there's this thing where it stems into sort of like eating disorders and things like that. So I don't want to go too deep into it, but they have like 5 options or 5 choices. And it's like, they always keep 5 chocolate bars in a cupboard. And for example, if they eat one chocolate bar, they just replace the chocolate bar. And it's knowing that you've always got that there teaches you that it can be done, and it teaches you that like you can have that whenever you want. So we're sort of doing that from a healthier perspective. I don't want people, obviously, with eating disorders on ELIMIN8 or things like that's why that's a question at the start, or I'll go into a bit more deeper with them before they join ELIMIN8 rather than don't want them on. But the idea is like, if you know something's there, you can have it whenever you want. There will be times you crash. There will be times you get hungry, whether you're dieting or overeating. There's still times you're going to overeat. But my job is to sort of like teach you to make sure you're eating the right things. E.g., even if you hit the bottom of the pot of a Halo Top, it's only 360 calories. It's not that much damage done. It's quite hard to overeat on dark chocolate, 70% plus, compared to e.g. dairy milk. So it's just making sure your food environment's there, but also like making sure the cupboards have got all the good stuff in. Like make sure you got, like for example, I've not had my dinner yet. I'm gonna have my dinner after this. I'm gonna go home. There's a tin of tuna, so I don't have to do any cooking. I don't have to make a mess. I've got tinned veg, tinned tuna, salads, ready-made stuff, easy stuff. Food environment's good. I could have had like a frozen meal, things like that. So it's just always making sure you've got the right things in there. But it doesn't mean just avoid everything. It's making sure the stuff there that makes your life easier. And it's also, this links into like your friends, your family, your work environment. Like I know a lot of you guys in offices always have like chocolate biscuits, crisps on the desk, and things like that. It's like, can you limit that? Can it be put out of sight? Why is it always on the desk on the way to the toilet? So you get one on the way and one on the way back, especially when they've got like the celebrations and that around Christmas. But what this also means is like, is trying to get them on board from a mental perspective, and talking to them and being like, So like, you know, when you're trying to diet and you're like, oh, I don't really fancy drinking, and your friends like, stop being boring, you're too obsessed, like, why are you not drinking? Like, that's just silly. Your family being like, oh, come on, just come round for dinner. They comment on your weight, oh, you've lost too much weight, or you're restricting yourself, you're being obsessive. And I'm seeing a lot of people nod their heads on the call here. Just like put in the group as well, who do people find hardest to sort of be around when it's dieting? Is it friends? Is it family? Is it their work? Just let me know in the chat, and we can go from there. And like you said, like your mum's telling you, oh, you're being moody, you're dieting, and people make little comments. Your work environment, you sat there having your lunch, and someone comments, puts their head over the desk and says, oh, rabbit food again, is it? Or like people start giving their opinions on dieting. I actually had a guy today tell me 900 calorie diet was better than tracking your calories at 2000, because 2000 calories would make you tired if you were running. And I was baffled at how someone was telling me, and I broke it down. I said calories are a unit of energy, literally just before. And I was like telling him like 900 units of energy is going to make you more full than 2000 units, more energized than 2000 units of energy. I was like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I was like, I get where you're trying to come from, and saying like, by the time you're sort of like eating your food, it slows you down by the time you're digesting it. But over the day, you're wrong, and things like that. So it comes into that friends, family, relationship sort of thing, and it's making them sort of come on. And I don't want to go into being too personal, but like things at work, it's like, it's trying, and same with like relationships and family, it's like trying to get them to understand in a way that makes sense to them. So someone's commented their boyfriend eating crisps and dinner, etc., baguettes and all of that. So like when me and Amira aren't matching up on terms of like when I was gaining, she was dieting or things like that, I would be a bit more mindful, because obviously I'm a coach, I know what to do, but I would try and make sure my main meals with her were quite similar. So e.g., we would have a stir fry for dinner, I would have an extra portion of rice. If we were getting porridge on the weekend, I would just have a bigger portion. But all my snacks and that would be based around when she was not there. So I'd say to her, like, look, I'm not dieting, so I don't really want to restrict what I'm eating, but I'll just make sure I eat before I come and see you, or make sure I'm doing them things. And it's trying to get people to do that. And it's like, even in your work environment, it's like trying to get people on board, because like I said, they say to you why. What's the saying? They first ask you why, and then they ask you how. So they're like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? That's pointless, etc. And then you've lost 4 or 5 kilos. And then they're like, oh yeah, what was that eliminate you were doing? Like, you look really good. Like, what's Logan's number? I want to message him and do the next one. And it's getting people to do that, and it's staying strong, and it's trying to get them to see it from a perspective of like, look, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this as a challenge, because it needs to make me mentally better. Like, often I say to people, it's easier for me to say no to 1 than it is to say no for 2, because as soon as I start have the first biscuit, I'm like, fuck it, 2, 3, 4. So it's getting people to say, look, just don't ask me, just please, because I know what I'm like. And it's, or like I said to you the other week, it's putting it into something that makes sense to them. So to Haley, if your boyfriend does like things like that, just like, if he's ever done a boxing event or a big run, go, remember when you were training for the London Marathon and you didn't drink any alcohol for 8 weeks? Because that's what I need you to do with me. I wasn't encouraging you to go and drink alcohol, wasn't asking you to get takeaways, I wasn't asking you to, if you fancy crisps and biscuits, I would say just focusing on you for being healthy. Or if they've done like white collar boxing events and things like that. So it's trying to get them to see it from that perspective, and getting them to be on side, and getting them to just view it in a way which makes sense to them. Or like, I need to do this. Or like, if you're fed up of me changing my clothes and taking ages to get ready on the night out because I don't feel confident, I want to make sure I feel confident. I know if I do this for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to feel better when I drop a dress size, and you're not going to have to wait as long as me. For you females, I know that's still going to happen. I know whether you're in the best shape of your life, you're still going to take 2 hours to get ready and still go through 45 different outfits, but at least try to get them on board. So we'll quickly run through what conscious vs obsessive with. I usually do a quiz on this, but we've spoke a lot. I've spoke a lot already. Basically, is we touched on this 70% limp Paco. dark chocolate is going to be higher in fat, but if you get, I have 1 to 2 squares of 70% length, and it's about 60 calories a square of dark chocolate. Two squares is quite a nice amount. Saves you eating a whole bar of dairy milk. So conscious vs obsessive is like, if you're going out for dinner, right, and you've got a goal, and you're like, you track ahead and you start being sensible, do people think that's conscious or obsessive? Just put it in the chat. If you're like, you want to hit your goal and things like that. Yeah, Caitlin, conscious. Anyone else, or speak up? I agree, it's conscious. If you start going down the route of like, I can't go out for dinner because I have to hit my goal. If I don't hit my goal, then I'm not going to be happy. But you're unhappy because you can't go out for dinner, and you're unhappy because you haven't reached your goal. You remember, you've got to remember what you're doing this for. You're doing this to make yourself feel better, look better, etc., so that you're happy. So if you start becoming unhappy, thinking you can't go out for dinner because you're not going to be able to make it fit into your calorie target, or it's going to mess up your day because like we're getting tighter, that's not a good place to be in. That does become a little bit obsessive. Or as I said to you last week, going out for on the cardio front, when we've done that topic, if you go out for dinner and you've gone out for your calories, you've gone over your calories, and you think, oh, next day, do you know what I mean? I'll go for a little run, it will just reset me. And I feel it will just make me feel a little bit better. I probably would say that's conscious. If you were low on energy, you didn't have time, and you were like, I have to get that run in, otherwise I'll feel guilty for going out for dinner last night, and I'll hate myself for going out for dinner. I think that's obsessive, and I wouldn't want anyone to be in that position. And if anyone is in that position where they do feel guilty for going out or going over calories, please do message me and we'll talk through it. But being conscious and going and getting a couple of extra 1,000 steps in, or tracking your dinner in advance, or going for a little walk the next day because you did slightly overeat, then that's just being conscious. Like, but don't also go down the route of, what I'll do is I'll just start a main dessert and then I'll just punish myself by going for a 10K run tomorrow, because again, that's not healthy. So it's all about what's dependent to each person. That's why it's quite a hard topic to talk about. But it's your mindset towards that choice which makes it conscious or obsessive. So, for example, like if I'm like, right, I'm going to go out for dinner this weekend, and I just fancy getting something a little bit heavier calories. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to get my steps in and just make sure everything's ticked off, and just try and maybe lose an extra couple of pounds before the weekend. That's conscious. If I'm like, right, what I need to do this week is I have to get myself down to, I'm 80 kilos. I have to be 79 before the weekend. Otherwise, I'm not going to have the pizza. Then it becomes a little bit obsessive. So it's just your mindset towards it, which makes it conscious or obsessive. So just be sensible, be aware. Whatever happens, just deal with it and move on. So this is why you should stick with it, because your mindset and motivation changes. The more you do this, the better you're going to feel about yourself. There's all topics all the time on like GMTV and things like that. Should we be relating happiness with our health and how we look? But at the end of the day, my answer to this is, no matter how much they talk about it, everyone's individual, and we all do feel a little bit better, feeling a little bit better in our clothes when clothes aren't so tight, and we do feel a little bit lighter and do feel a little bit leaner and feel a little bit healthier. It's been a topic since age of time, and people will always want to try and lose a little bit weight or feel in good shape. Is your self-worth determined on how you look? No, it's not. We all know that. But it also comes down to happiness. I've been in the best shape of my life and I've been unhappy. I was moody. I was tired, which is why I diet differently now. So you've got to take these things into consideration, but we aren't at that level. We're at a point of where we're trying to lose weight, we're trying to enjoy life, we're trying to learn a little bit about fat loss and dieting, and just drop a couple of clothes sizes and feel better for summer, or get our abs coming through for summer. So that's why you should stick with it, because it will be worth it. And like I said at the start of the call, you stick with it over the next 4 or 5 weeks, you're going to learn so much about you, about yourself, about dieting. where that balance view is. Like I said, I've been in that shape before where I was unhappy. I had to get to that position to learn that. But everything I learned during that period, I now implement in just a diluted version. I now know everything I need to do to stay in shape for the rest of my life. I learned diet tricks, etc., that I didn't know before. So you will learn so much about you and yourself, and it will be worth it. Again, you're going to start seeing the changes in your clothes and in your progress pictures. Do the mindset exercise if you are struggling for motivation. So if you think, right, what do you want to look like on your next holiday? What do you want your lifestyle to look like in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year? Write all these different options down. Is it a look? Is it a feel? Is it being able to go on holiday and eat at the all-inclusive buffet without feeling guilty? Is it understand that you can go on holiday and strike a nice balance rather than seeing it as a free-for-all just because you're on holiday? What does your new lifestyle look like based on your aesthetics, your health, your well-being, etc., etc.? It comes more to that, and then that's where it's a little bit different to your why exercise, but it's think about how you want to look and feel in these selected dates. And last couple of bits before I finish up: what to do when you feel like giving up. Don't. Nobody, just move on. Nobody is forcing this on you. You were the one unhappy and wanting to change. That's why you signed up for ELIMIN8. This is what it takes to change. It does take a little bit of digging deep. It does take a little bit of being sensible. It does take a lot of pre-planning. That is what it takes to get through that plateau that you've not got through before. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Like, if I could sit here and say, you guys go do whatever you want, and it will work, I would love that. I would love that for myself. But we do need to be sensible, and we do need to do the things that are going to make things change. This is why ELIMIN8 gets the results it does. It is the difference between other group coaching programs, because I sit here and I be honest with what it is, but I'm not going to sit here and say just do what you want, because I'm a coach and I want the best for you. It does take sometimes being strong. It does take sometimes saying no. It does take what needs to be done. If you feel like giving up, you can't just go, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to do what I want then get back on it tomorrow. Sometimes you need to be strong. You need to breathe. You need to reflect. Take 10 minutes, go for a walk around the block. Think about all the positives of what you want out of ELIMIN8. Even stop and write them down, like we just said before. What is it you want? Write down the feelings you want to feel on your next holiday, how you want to look, your confidence, your health. What does it mean to you to see this through in the next 4 or 5 weeks? It's getting dark and I don't have any lights in my conservatory. But it's important that you know how you want to look and feel, because that will get you through. And it sounds a bit like, what's the right word to say this? It sounds a bit geeky, almost saying like write it down and get it. It's going to work. Because not many people would write it down, but it does work. It really, really does work. Because if you're sat there and you're thinking, right, I'm just going to order a pizza because I feel like shit. I've had a breakup. My boyfriend's doing my head in. My mum's doing my head in. But you go think, right, I want to look like this on my next holiday. I know if I see through ELIMIN8, I will get there. That's why it's important. It's not just, oh, I'd like to lose another 2 kilos. I can do that whenever. It's how you feel in them moments as well. So, as I always say, it's been 28 days. That's not much time to diet. The whole 8 weeks of ELIMIN8 is not a long time to diet. And you can see some of the progress. I've started to post a few of the pictures on the social media. You can see the changes that were done in the first 4 weeks. Can you imagine what we're going to look like in the next 4? We want everything now, but we need to focus on the long game. The long game is learning the habits that you can use after ELIMIN8. If you can use these habits after ELIMIN8, you are going to be one very, very happy person, because you will know the process. You'll know you never you can't unlearn what you already know, or it takes something drastic to unlearn everything that you've learned. So once you've learned this, once you're going to know it for life, and you're going to remain in shape for life unless things obviously go wrong. At this point, you'll start questioning if you should change what's already working. Why on earth would you change what's working? Why would you change what's got you this far? Your motivation will start to dip. Like I said, it's not a permanent state. It is a feeling. It will come and go. But like I said, whether you feel on top of the world doing that workout, or you just get it done and you had to graft it out, the results will be the same. So think about that. That's why I don't celebrate people saying, oh, I feel really good. And I don't go too deep on people when they say they don't feel good. I just say, look, do what you need to do, hit them targets, they're there for a reason. Between weeks 5 and 8 is where you see the biggest physical changes. This is your gold dust weeks. This is what you've been doing it for. This is the ones where you start catching a little glimpse of yourself naked, walking in the shower and going, do you know what? I look good. Big Damo, you probably stand there for a little bit longer in the mirror, but we'll move on from that. We'll take it one day at a time. We'll try to build up rhythm and routine. 28 days turns into 29. You'll see here it's the same stuff I'm saying, but what we're going for here is that I'm teaching you a lifestyle. It isn't just a phase, it is a lifestyle. Focus on why you started this. Look at the positives, not the negatives. Caitlin, if you go and have a big night out for your 30th birthday and you nailed the 5 days before it and on the Sunday you got up and went for a walk, that is positive. Do you know what I mean? It's not the one day you have a negative. That's what we're focusing on here. It's trusting the process. This is the process that works. All the transformations you see on my page have all been through this process, whether they were eliminate or one-to-one. It is what it takes. It is hitting targets for a longer period of time. And that is the process. There's nothing magic in it. It is just learning the methods rather than being told what to do. So how do you make it to week 6? I think that says week 5. That should say week 6 because you're on week 5. Pre-plan, don't do it in hindsight or on the fly. Again, repeating the same sort of stuff I said. Say no from time to time. Like I said, if it's not a big social and you don't need to overeat and overdrink, don't. You will see I'm getting a little bit stricter. Because I want you to suffer now and not suffer in the future. And we spoke about this, rather than taking 3 steps forwards and going backwards like usual, just keep going forward. This means stop trying to implement things that aren't going to benefit your progress. Just keep doing your non-negotiables. Yes, you will go over targets. Yes, you will slip up. Yes, you will have days where you're hungry, but keep doing what you need to do. Stay consistent over a consistent period of time and you will see the goals. Keep making yourself the priority. That is what's important. That is what works every single time. So hopefully that makes sense. Does anyone have... so I'll run through this week's challenge. It's called Pennies Make Pounds. Look after your mind and it will look after you. What I mean by this is do something for you outside of Eliminate. That doesn't... So is this catching up with friends and family you've been saying you're going to catch up on? Is it going to a yoga class? Is it going to get in touch with an old friend you've been meaning to get in touch with? Is it going to see your gran? My granny's just come over for the week, so I went out for dinner with her yesterday. Could have quite easily been like, I'm dieting, but obviously my granny's over, so I've gone out for dinner with her, which I would do anyway. But last time I'd done this on Eliminate, I actually set up, when I created this, I actually set up a WhatsApp group, not a WhatsApp group, a broadcast message on WhatsApp with all my friends that I've been long-term friends with, but I never get to catch up. And I post every now and again, and it said, who's free for a catch-up? And just to go out for a coffee, go for a walk. And it just made me feel like on top of the world, doing something for myself. Mentally, I felt really good knowing I'd done that. So I've had some really good ones. Someone actually got in touch with a family member they hadn't spoke to in 10 years off the back of this challenge one time. So go and do something for you outside of Eliminate. Like I said, it can be as simple as going for a walk, go reading a book, watching a Netflix series you've been meaning to watch, or just catching up with people. It's quite a nice challenge. So title it Eliminate made me do it. So get a little selfie with your friend if you catch up with them. Eliminate made me do it. These challenges will contribute to the overall prize, which is your money back or a month's coaching, and have the best week, because doing things like this do make you feel good. Any questions for me? I know that was a lot of me talking again. These calls tend to be just because there's so much to cover on fat loss topics. It's why it's on the telly every single day. It's why you see it on social media every day and everyone gives an opinion on it, because you can talk about it for days and days and days on end. But no one's said they've got any questions. So go have a wonderful evening. And now I'm watching the game. United are going to come back and win 3-2. Have a lovely evening, guys. Speak
Bye,
to you.
Logan. Thank you.
Thanks, Logan.
Bye.
Cheers, Logan.
Bye.